Welcome back to Indianapolis out of the 2025 Scouting Combine as we continue our coverage. Craig Grialou, Dani Sureck, and joined right now by Lance Zierlein, NFL Network, who I believe is still writing those draft profiles. So what is the number? Because I remember a conversation a year ago, and you still had work to do when we met, but this is something that's kind of a labor of love, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it's every year that passes maybe a labor of like. But no, it's a grind. But this is the fun stuff. When I'm here talking to you guys, when I'm here doing the television, this is the fun stuff. And there are times where I'm watching tape where I'm having a lot of fun. When I find a player that I'm like, wow, I didn't know, but this guy's great. He's fun to watch. He's going to be really good. The number now is at like 346, I think. And the scouting profiles I've written today up to this point, I'll get to probably about 485 to 500 in that neighborhood. So, but it's going to sound crazy to you, but writing the next 150 in 2 months is like nothing. That's fine. I just got done writing 124 in about 21 days. So that was tough. That was hard.
Have you had a player selected in which you did not have a draft
yeah.
profile? Okay.
Oh, yeah, it happens almost every year.
Okay.
It happens almost every year. I did have during one of the COVID years was the only year I had none, where I nailed them all. And that was probably because teams couldn't go out and do the individual workouts, so they had to stay a lot closer to the combine list. And I'd already written all the combine guys. But, yeah, every year. So here's the thing is I have to write up scouting reports on players that get drafted that I don't have. And you think I want to do that after all the work I've done, and I do 3 straight days at NFL Network of talking about every player drafted, and my last day is a 7 hours straight on television or on a streaming platform talking about every player drafted. I do not want to have to write that scouting report. And so I do my best to really fine-tune. I kind of know which types of players are the sneaky little draft picks. I try to keep that number down to 1, 2, or 3 if possible.
What can a player do this week at the Combine to not change someone's mind, because so much work has already gone in? This is more kind of the final checkpoint of that. What can a player do in any aspect to stand out or solidify?
Well, so that question, I'm going to answer it 2 different ways. For a media personality like myself, somebody who does it media, somebody who doesn't have access to the interviews, that the teams do, somebody who doesn't have access to the medical stuff. For me, it can be someone I thought wasn't very fast. They run really fast, or they are an explosive tester, and I say, man, I got to go look at that. I may have missed that, or maybe this guy can play faster and he's just thinking too much. And what could he be? Because we always have to think about what a guy could be. It can't just be what's on tape. Use what's on tape to help you project what they can be if they have great physical traits, right? Long arms, fast, explosive in the hips, which is why we do the vertical jumps and the broad jumps. It helps to, the quickness drills help show change of direction, because that's a big part of NFL football. So what they can do, Dani, is test really well in certain areas. And a team can go, like what I'll do is I may go, if I have a 62, which would be an average starter on you, I may go to a 63, which is an above average starter, somebody who's more likely to be a second round pick, frankly. So it can have a full grade impact. I think it can have a full round impact, and in some cases maybe even a couple round impact if teams, if the right team maybe was low on a player and then they meet with them in the room and they're, man, this guy is all about football. He's really an aggressive alpha personality who's a great leader, and he tested well. Because it's not unheard of for a team to be like okay on a player and then they meet him and the general manager does more work on him than just the area scout, and he goes, man, we dug in on this, and then an offensive line coach, gets involved. Because offensive line coaches, the coaches typically, when they get here, their season ended, then they're looking at their own free agents, then they're looking at other free agents, and then they're looking at Senior Bowl guys. And the combine guys, my dad was an NFL offensive line coach for the Cardinals with Bruce Arians' staff. And by the time he got to the combine, he just watched a few plays on every player. He didn't know them. So then once a position coach gets involved, a lot of times they may really start to fight for guys, and guys can really start rising up aboard.
I know in your most recent mock draft you had the Cardinals selecting an offensive lineman, but I want to go to an offensive lineman that I know you were high on a few years back, and that's Paris Johnson Jr., and get your thoughts on him now as a left tackle and that transition that he made from year 1 to year 2?
I think Paris has worked. It's kind of – it's not – I think he's kind of been what I expected in the sense that he had work to do. He had great traits, a great opportunity to become a certain type of player, but he's still got work to do, obviously, and the right side is a lot different. It's less different than it used to be on the left side, but I think he's still a player right now that is finding himself. Offensive line sometimes takes as much as 3 to 4 years. Is in what Paris has had 2 years, is it now, or has it been 3 years?
2 years.
So he's going into the third year. This should be a huge year. You're going to find out who he is in year 3 because first year, you're head swimming. Second year, you think you've got it, and then you don't, and it's a matter of confidence and fighting through adversity. Year 3, you've been through all the downs. You've been through some ups. The game's not fast to you anymore. Your technique is better.
This year's draft class deep in defensive tackle, edge rushers, which are both
really
needs for this Cardinals defense. A name, though, to keep in mind, Darius Robinson, a player that was going through this process last year, dealt with a calf injury, so he only played the last 6 games. Based on what you remember from your profile and looking into Robinson last year and maybe what we saw at the end of the season, what can a realistic expectation be for him getting this full off season and the time to get healthy and what he can provide for this Cardinals defense?
I think it's going to be like getting another draft pick back almost. I mean, he did play at the end of the year, but Darius Robinson is big. He is a great body type player. He has dual capacity in terms of rush and run. I think he can step in and become a starter this year. I mean, I think he's really a player who I had high hopes for. I think he's a player with a lot of upside. He needs work, but he got mental reps last year. Even though you have a calf injury, you're still getting mental reps. You're still in meeting rooms. And then being able to get on the field, I can't tell you how important I think that is because getting to have those reps, and it's in 6 games is fantastic. 2 games gives you a taste. 6 gives you got to see NFL speed. You got to taste NFL strength. Your head got to swim a little bit on misdirection. Some of the things you have to go through, from an experience standpoint, he got to experience the experience he needed. So I think that is a really interesting player you bring up because that is really almost like I say it's like another draft pick. It's like adding a free agent. You're getting a player at a position of need that you can plug in and I think should play at a good level for the Cardinals pretty quickly.
Where the Cardinals are selecting this year at 16, a little bit more unpredictable versus a year ago where it's top 4 and you could figure out, okay, you don't need a quarterback. Certainly wide receiver was much of the talk last season. This season, going into this year's draft in April, as far as where the Cardinals are and where you think they might benefit from either line of scrimmage on offense or defense, or maybe there's a position that is not on the line of scrimmage.
Well, it's if you're looking at 16, you're looking on the defensive front. I mean, realistically, you might find a wide receiver you like there that you'd like to pair with Marvin Harrison Jr. Maybe, if McMillan from Arizona fell to that spot, I might be willing to take a shot there. I think Matthew Golden and Luther Burden probably a little too early for them, but I think you want to start looking for Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M, who's a big edge rusher, kind of in a Darius Robinson mode where you almost feel like you're not sure if he's an end or a defensive tackle, where Robinson had that dual experience in college. You have Mike Green, who I don't know if he gets there from Marshall, but Mike Green would be a great rusher. I think Gannon would love to have a guy like that with that type of hair-on-fire intensity. But defensive tackle, if Walter Nolan were to fall a little bit, that would be a really fantastic addition. Kenneth Grant might be a little bit early for him from Michigan. But, you're also in a position at 16 where I don't know if this is going to be the year where it happens because it's not – it's really good from pick like 20 to about 45 or 50. It's really good in that spot. That's the sweet spot for this draft. So, but the ability to trade back and then target 3 or 4 players in a cluster would be great for Arizona. 16 is a little bit of a dead spot, to be honest with you. As I was looking through that the other day, I thought, boy, it'd be great to be inside the top 14 or to be back in the 20s. And 16's tough because you got a couple tight ends who should go inside the top 16. You got 2 quarterbacks maybe that go in there, but it's not a quarterback draft, so you're not, you don't have as much action going on. It's not a great wide receiver draft. It's not a great tackle draft. So what it is defensive tackles, defensive ends, running backs, which typically are not going to go that early, and tight ends, which after you get to past the first 2, the next really good one's in the second round. So it's kind of a tough spot being at number 16. And every draft has a life of its own where, you have different storylines of, okay, the first 6 picks, this is the storyline, and then in the first 12, and then you have 16 is just kind of a tough spot because it's not, you could get the guy you like, but you'd love to get more value by moving back and adding one more pick because it is a deep draft in rounds 2 through 4.
And the good news is, Dani, is that we know Monty Austin-Fort likes to move back.
Trader Monty's pretty good at it, too.
The Monty magic.
Lance, appreciate the time. Always enjoy your work on NFL Network, and specifically the draft profiles. Those are our thing. That's the Bible right now for a lot of us going into this year's draft.
I appreciate it. And I'm glad that the work I'm doing is being read and shared by people like yourself. So thank you.
Appreciate it.